Today I saw Sicario, which is probably going to be the first Oscar winner I see this year. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Sicario follows FBI officer Kate Mercer, played by Emily Blunt, who is selected for a task force dealing with Mexican cartels. She quickly realizes she's out of her depth as the team, along with a group of soldiers and a mysterious Benicio del Toro, make a trip into Mexico to destabilize the leadership of a cartel.
What's our objective?
To dramatically overreact.
Sicario is all about crossing boundaries. I mean, in an obvious way, it revolves around an illegal interference in Mexican law and order by US forces. But as we cross that very real physical boundary, we also cross a number of moral, social, and psychological ones as well. The film looks at competing boundaries between state sovereignties, the boundary between law officials and criminals, and also, in a wider sense, the boundary between chaos and order. But just like in Prisoners and Enemy, Denis Villeneuve is not interested in providing a straight set of answers. Instead, what he wants to do is look at a broad exploration of a number of themes. But the cool thing is that Villeneuve reflects the boundary themes of the film in the visuals. There's this endless repetition of lines that divide the frame up. It's helped by Deakins' predictably gorgeous cinematography, but it's more than that. Deakins works best with natural style lighting, broad canvases, richly composed frames with vast blank spaces for colour and light to interplay, and Villeneuve's style perfectly melds with that. The film ceaselessly cuts between these complex patterned shots, like an aerial shot of a load of roads, or maybe a grid of tiles on a floor, to these long, wide, stationary shots with lots of blank space in them. You can see why people are excited for Blade Runner 2, because getting Villeneuve and Deakins together again is just going to be baller. It's going to be great. As for the performances, they're solid across the board, but there's a couple I really want to pick out. First off, Emily Blunt is fantastic in this film. She pulls off quite a complex balancing act that's often asked of women actors in military-focused films. She's capable and commanding as an officer. Seeing her in the house raid that opens the film establishes how experienced and in control she is. But a lot of law-focused films really fail their female characters because the filmmakers are incapable of showing vulnerability in a woman police officer unless she's crying in the shower or seeking the touch of a handsome yet rugged police officer. But Kate doesn't do any of that. Her vulnerability, and there's a fair amount of wobbly lip action in this, she is vulnerable, she's no tank. Her vulnerability comes across in how out of depth her character really is. Another person to note is Daniel Kaluuya, who I've been following since he was in Psychoville all the way back in about 2008. He was one of BAFTA's people to watch a couple of years ago, and since then he's really grown as an actor. When you look at him in this film, for an actor with as little experience relative to the rest of the cast that he has, he very much holds his own. Especially there's a lot of scenes that he shares with Josh Brolin, and he nails every single one of them. So it's really nice to see some homegrown British talent finally managing to crack the Hollywood nut. I don't really want to talk about Benicio del Toro too much because a lot of what happens with his character kind of veers into spoiler territory. But what I can say about him is that he takes something that's quite difficult in the film, which is the idea that these characters are constantly crossing boundaries, and manages to communicate it into a believable physical presence in the film. Ultimately, a lot of what Villeneuve wants to say about morality comes through that character, and it's quite an interesting one. So Benicio, you did good. Good kid. One major problem with Sicario is that it suffers from a lack of structure. The main character doesn't even know what's going on moment to moment for most of the film, and that works to an extent, but it can only hold the audience's interest for so long. Although Prisoners and Enemy probably deal with more generic themes, like they're wider ranging, and they don't cover so much specific plot, so there's a lot of stuff to get through in the film. And as a result, Sicario kind of drifts a little, it kind of spins around. When it does get into a really tight sequence, Villeneuve just excels. But I think he needs a script that's a little bit tighter to be able to look at the themes that he wants to discuss and not risk losing the audience's interest along the way. One last thing about Sicario is that it slots itself quite nicely into what I think is a sort of newly emerging style in the American thriller genre. I think you can mark most American thrillers as following the ingenuity of an individual as they fight a bad element. They're basic exercises in narrative free will. But since the war on terror and the revelation that government surveillance is pretty much ever present in our lives, work like Prisoners, Sicario, and True Detective have posited a new reality for the thriller. Their America is one of vast and wild landscapes. The terror of group power overwhelms the individual, actions have little or no lasting consequence, and all roads lead inexorably to a preordained climax. This is the age of deterministic detectives, and Sicario is right on trend with that. Sicario is out today in US cinemas and out on the 8th in UK cinemas. Go and see it when you have a chance to see one of the best shot, best acted, best written, best directed films of the year. So far. Award season's only just begun. If you've seen Sicario and you liked it, press the like button down there, and leave a comment if you want to talk about anything specific in the film. Don't forget to subscribe as well to make sure you get my videos when they come out once a week. So till next time, have a good one.